Hello there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to the Trinity Stamps YouTube channel. Today's card making video is inspired by vintage Valentines. These two stamp sets in the latest release have a vintage vibe to them. This is Sucker for You, and then later I'll show you the Tweetheart set. There are coordinating dies to die cut out every single stamp in this image. You know I love that. And now I have stamped this out with some Copic friendly black ink and I'm coloring it with my Copic markers. So I have 3 different shades here of red, and I'm going to color my sucker in red. I'm also using these same exact markers for my next image so that I can have 2 kind of coordinating Valentines. So my lightest color is R24, and then my mid-tone is R27, and my darkest I think is R35. And I am doing the edge in red, but what makes these vintage, I feel, is when they have these sweet little faces. I have researched vintage Valentines and I pinned like a ton of them. They are just so cute and they make me so happy. So I am totally in love with these stamp sets. Plus, I love that they're a small size. So I can splurge, I can get both because they're cost effective and it's easier to purchase more when they're small. So I was very happy with that. I am using R21 and R20 for my pink, and then I did some blue on there as well. I felt these were kind of vintage colors, or really they're just colors I love. I tend to use these colors for Christmas also. I don't know if you saw my gnome videos at Christmas time where the gnome was baking. I used similar colors to this right here. So I added some white gel pen highlights and I die cut out all the things so that you could see them, although I don't end up using all the die cut pieces on my cards. So here we have our Tweetheart set. Also, look at his super cute face. He is just a bird you'd expect to like fly out of the movie Bambi or something, right? So very cute, or maybe Snow White, something like that. So I'm going to use, like I said, the same colors. I did add in that really kind of golden yellow there at the bottom, brownish color that I'll use for the beak on the bird and his feet. And then I'll add in some green. I just needed like a different color in this one, so you'll see that coming up, but I just had fun coloring these. I am not like a Copic coloring expert by any means. I usually use 2 or 3 color blends. Like this heart is bigger, so having 3 different colors is really helpful for a large area, I feel, but then if you have a smaller one, you can really get away with 2. So I just color for the fun of it. I love doing it. It makes me happy. So I use my Copic markers. And there are so many different alcohol marker choices out there nowadays. It used to be kind of a harder thing for us regular crafters to get our hands on, and I just love that it's so readily available because the look of alcohol markers is so good. I loved coloring as a kid and making Valentines as a kid, and this just reminded me of making Valentines when I was a kid. So maybe I wouldn't consider the Valentines I made when I was little vintage. I mean, they might be, but I don't necessarily consider them vintage. So when I was coloring these, it just inspired me to use some elements that I might have used growing up to make my own Valentine. So, you know, you could maybe color something. And so I have my things that are colored, and then I'm going to make kind of a fun edge because when you're making Valentines, when I was little, you didn't have a lot. You had your paper, you had your paste, you had scissors, maybe some glitter. Like you didn't have a lot of things, so you kind of had to get inventive. So I scored this 6x6 piece of paper at 3 inches and 1.5 inches. I took the coordinating die, I put it centered on the score line, and then I only cut part of it by positioning my plate so it lined up with that scored line. Then I can cut away the front half of the card and I have this cool piece hanging over. It will line up perfectly with my sucker, and then my sucker, as it's hanging off the edge, you can't see the Copic coloring on the back. It makes it more sturdy, and you could use it as like a another layer, which you'll see me do with the bird card later. You could just hang the die cut colored bird part right off the card. You could totally do that without doing this fancy cut. I get it. But I wanted to add something on the inside. Like one of the things paper-wise that you could use was a doily. So I pulled out this mini slimline die set, and when I did, I had all my Trinity Stamps mini slimline dies together. And so I thought I would just show you, like, they have some really cool mini slimline things. If you like that size, which is a 6x6 piece of paper folded in half, Trinity Stamps has so many and they're so good. So I will link them for you below so you can check them out. And I am adding some cool decorative paper. This is from the Love Dani paper collection. I'll give you a little close-up of the cover of the paper pad in just a second. I cut these so that they are just under 1.5 inches wide by 5 3/4 of an inch long, and then I can have a little red border all the way around. Now you can see on my 2 cards I did one insert in kind of that seafoam green color and then one in white. Even if I'm making like the same card, sometimes I'll make little change ups like that to make it more fun and enjoyable for me, and when you can't decide, do one of each, right? Okay, so you can see on the sucker card I line up the sucker exactly with the die cut. That just is what looked best to me on that card. But on the bird, I offset it, so I add a little bit of a shadow. I love doing that. I love that look with this style of card. So there's both ways. Here's a close-up again of that Love Dani paper pad. Love Dani is one of the artists that designs for Trinity Stamps, and she had this paper pad available. It's still in the shop, so it'll be linked for you below as well. Okay, so now these little stamp sets have these extra little hearts and things in them, so I thought I would add some of them on. I love having like the hearts, they're on the inside of the card, but you can see them on the outside of the card. So it just has this other fun element. And what is the other thing that we always had when we were little? Glitter. So now we have the grown-up version of glitter called stickles. So I took diamond stickles and I added that to my little accents, and I also happen to have some red stickles. So I brought that in also, and I went like rogue and made my own hearts with it. It's kind of scary, you know, your card's like done now, so let me do something on it that could possibly ruin it. That's the way I roll. I like to live dangerously. So I added some hearts and let these dry. That's another thing we always had to do is, you know, wait for things to dry, and I still do that nowadays, and it just makes me so happy that the things I loved when I was little I can do now when I'm older, playing with paper. So here I am stamping Happy Valentine's Day on the flap of the envelope. Now, Trinity Stamps also has a mini slimline envelope die set. However, when I did Valentine's as a kid, the envelopes that came with those, were they not the cheapest thing you had ever seen? Yeah, and we probably should have been a little afraid to lick them also. Yeah. So I thought I would use some like good old-fashioned cheap envelopes. These are like the size of envelopes. Like when I was little, we wrote letters to people, like on paper with a pencil or a pen. That's what size these envelopes are. You can find them at the dollar store or anywhere like that. They're slightly cheap paper also, so it really played into that feel of a vintage Valentine or Valentines from my youth. So thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me here on the Trinity Stamps channel today. I will see you all again very soon with a new video right here. But between now and then, check us out on Facebook and Instagram too. Happy stamping. Bye.